Sonia ma'am, we're good to go.
Yes, ma'am. Good evening, everyone. A warm welcome to the day 5 of ATAL Faculty Development Program titled Driving Innovation for Sustainable Urban Growth, Smart Cities, Mobility, Logistic and Startup Ecosystem. I'm Dr. Sonia K, Associate Professor from Department of MBA, hosting the today's session. I extend my heartfelt gratitude to all the participants and resource persons who have joined us from various parts of the country. Today, we have two power packed sessions lined up featuring experts who bring rich insights and experience to the session. As we move ahead with our agenda, it's time to revisit the highlights of day 4 and reflect on all the key insights we gained. For this, I would like to invite Dr. Pankaj Tiwari, ATAL FDP coordinator, to take us through the detailed report of day 4. Over to you, ma'am.
Sure, Sonia ma'am, thank you so much. And Monica, very, very good morning. I know it's pretty early in the morning in Boston. So welcome on board with us.
Thank you very
And
much. I'm happy to be here.
sure. So it's our privilege to have you around. So quickly, I'll give the snapshot of the day 4 of ATAL FDP. And on the day 4, we have two impactful sessions offering valuable insights into the fostering sustainable urban growth and innovation. The first session was led by Mr. Vadiraj Monagoli. He is a senior director with Capgemini. The topic of his session was creating sustainable and smart infrastructure for startup ecosystems. He highlighted the importance of integrating technology, policy, and collaboration to build startup friendly environments. By sharing his successful case studies, I believe he mentioned a couple of more case studies around India and outside as well, maybe the global perspective. He demonstrated how digital tools and public private partnership can drive innovation, sustain the ecosystem for the entrepreneurs, especially for the young entrepreneurs. Second session was about challenges and opportunities for startups in smart logistics. That was delivered by renowned person, Dr. Vanishri M. Ramakrishna. She is the Dean of Research and Consultancy at Surana College, Bangalore. She discussed the hurdles faced by startups in logistics, such as regulatory complexities and high cost, while showcasing opportunity in AI-driven solution, green logistics, and process automation. Both sessions engaged participants with practical strategies and actionable knowledge, enriching their understanding of innovation and sustainability. With that, over to you, Sonia ma'am. I think we are good to go for today, day 5. Thank you so much.
Yes. Thank you, Pankaj ma'am, for the comprehensive recap. Our first session today delves into a pivotal aspect of urban transformation, public-private partnership for smart city development and vendor management business model. To guide us through this dynamic topic, we have an exceptional speaker, Ms. Monica Smith, CEO and founder of TradeWinds Career Consulting based in Boston, USA. It's a great honor for me to introduce our distinguished chief guest, Ms. Monica Mary Smith, a visionary leader and global expert in intercultural leadership and team collaboration. Ms. Monica is the CEO and founder of TradeWinds Career Consulting, where she helps organizations and professionals harness the power of diverse global teams through innovative leadership strategy. With over 30 years of experience leading across Asia, Europe, and United States, Monica has been at the forefront of guiding leaders to embrace cultural diversity and build cohesive teams in a globalized world. Her expertise spans individualized coaching, group training, and enterprise consulting, all focused on enhancing productivity, innovation, and inclusivity in organizations. Before founding her own consulting firm, Monica held significant leadership roles, including Senior Vice President at State Street, where she led globalization initiatives, and Vice President at Fidelity Investments, where she managed multi-million-dollar portfolios and helped establish strategic offshore ventures across Asia. In addition to her consulting work, Monica is also a respected guest lecturer at Northeastern University and American University, sharing her deep knowledge on leadership and cross cultural competence. Her dedication to building inclusive, high performing teams has made a lasting impact on leaders and organizations worldwide. Please join me in welcoming Ms. Monica Mary Smith, a true leader, mentor, and champion of intercultural excellence. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank
Ma'am,
you so
I'm stop sharing my screen. Will you able to share your screen, ma'am?
Let's give that a try. And we'll do this. How's that? Is that working for everyone?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, you can see that,
Okay.
Monica. That's wonderful.
Excellent. Thank you so much for that lovely introduction. And I have known Dr. Tiwari for years. We work together. I'm very happy to be with you today. Yes, it's morning here, but it's evening with you. And I'm delighted to be with you this evening. I will say, India is where all of this opportunity started for me. So I'm grateful to you already to start. This experience of working as an expat and working with global teams has been a source of great joy for me. And I think I want to share these activities with you today about public-private partnerships so that understanding the basic human interworkings makes it a joy instead of a challenge. There's so much opportunity in there. So I'm happy to be engaging with the St. Francis faculty and affiliates in my adopted home, Bangalore. I did spend 3 wonderful years there. I did set up a vendor management office locally. So I came as an expat, found tremendous talent in the Bangalore area, and was able to set up a team so that I would depart again. And the vendor management office was in excellent hands. And I'm still in touch with many of my colleagues from those days. So I'm very happy about that. Now, one of the things that I will share with you today as a theme is that there is a plethora of benefits that can be gained by purpose-driven culture and leadership. How do you manage a negotiated relationship based on shared purpose? And so that will be an underlying theme that you'll hear me repeat. And this works in many models, but especially in the public-private partnership where there's a vendor environment. And I'm referring in this case, I'll make sure I give references if you want to do further reading or investigation, is the book Deep Purpose. He also has many podcasts by Dr. Ranjay Gulati, who is at Harvard Business School right now, I believe. Very enlightening. One core concept before we dive in, he thinks of business, the purpose of a business, being driven by 4 C's. The C's are, those 4 stakeholders are customer, community, colleagues, and capital. So not the pure private goal that some firms have adopted, but these 4 stakeholders have to be in balance. And I think particularly in a public-private partnership, this is part of the focus. So I'll take it from there. The purpose is going to be our hub. I'll start with the mindset. Let me advance the slide here. 1 second. No. I'm not sure how, yeah, there we go. And a little freeze up. That's just my, one question I did want to have before, and maybe it could be entered into the chat, is what is the background of everyone here gathered? Some categories that I wanted to explore. I wanted to see if there are representatives here. So strategic partner management or vendor management, if there are people who have already done that, is it possible, Dr. Tiwari, if they put in the chat what their category of focus is?
Sure. So, participants, kindly mention in this chat box. Monica is requesting all of you just to understand who is the audience for today. The audience means if you are a faculty worked into this domain, or if you are actually taking your sessions on the vendor management, or research scholars like PhD holders who are there with us today. So kindly mention from which background you are, especially with the MBA students also are there. So it's a mix of the participants here for you today, Monica. I think we can get going because still some of them will be joining in between. because I can see
Okay.
we are 130 plus. So we can expect more to join in some time.
Okay. Excellent. Okay. So I want to make sure that I'm speaking to what your strengths are and not over covering material that you already have. Government affairs and government officials is actually kind of important. We don't have anyone of that category here.
No, not really,
Okay.
because all are from academia, and then some of them are performing their research work, and some of them are the MBA's graduates. So that is how
Okay.
the audit look like.
Okay, excellent. All right. So this is the landscape we'll be managing, these kinds of capabilities. So as always, I like to start with what is the mindset we need in order to look at the opportunity. And in this case, it's not only the size of the opportunity, it's the shape of the opportunity. It's not the same opportunity for a private sector company to work with the public sector. It's very different. There are different governing bodies that need to weigh in and provide guidance and guardrails around how to do the work. And then the government, as much as we all love our governments, they may not have the same efficiency drivers or process mindset that private sector has. So this is the starting point to make sure that we say to ourselves, what exactly are we facing here? So the slide is intended to be simple, but to provoke the thought. So if you go with number one, the government strategic outlook, what kind of experience do they have in working with the private sector? What kind of relationship are they looking for, especially in the scenario described, creating modern cities, managing ongoing growth and programs of work that may not all start at the same time and maybe multi-year? What kind of relationship are they looking for? I would break that into two, which is a strategic partner who will stick with me, the government, for a long time, has a broad capability on which I can draw to do programs, have them develop for me, versus a vendor, which is really kind of a work assignment where you say, this is the work, get it done. I'm not looking for partnership. I just want the task completed. So this is what the government needs to do as their start their scoping and their strategic outlook for what this partnership is going to be. For today's discussion, I'm going to hope our government made the right decision to say we're looking for private sector partnerships for long-term, multi-year, multi-channel development work. So you're picking partners with whom you intend to have a long-term relationship and intending them to have multiple capabilities, have the ability to grow, the ability to bring the right resource mix and to be adding the right resource mix as they go forward for the continued partnership. So that's the first thing that the government has to take in mind. The second is, who are the governing bodies and with whom will the private sector have to interact? This is an area that will be new to both parties, so it has to be considered very specifically. How are we going to have oversight and governance? And I'll make a quick definition of the two words, oversight and governance. Governance is to enable forward movement and to allow strategic improvements to happen as it goes forward. Businesses change, governments change. What is the governance model that's very resilient and capable to move forward with that? The oversight is the checkers, the people who are saying, okay, have we looked at the financial, are we having a financial overrun? Are we having deadline deliverable overrun? Are we having miscommunications that are key to delivery? So we need to understand in the government needs to take stock and say, how will the oversight and the governance take place? And then when those two bodies are in place and they do their best thinking, they'll decide what are the partnership processes? What do we need to put in place so we have toll gates, if you will, for where the process catches mistakes early, catches challenges, turns them into opportunities rather than disasters? And what is the overall governance so that as large strategic changes or improvements are happening, what are the resilient changes that might need to be made? That's the government side of the work. And you turn to the private sector, their strategic outlook for government. The private sector needs to make sure they're opening their minds to not assuming the government works the same way as the private sector. Both sides are looking at something new. They themselves have to select governing bodies internally. They need to know who they are and have a relationship in the government. They need to understand, are they being engaged for this larger portfolio of work, which is what I think would be the smartest way, just my opinion. And then government affairs, because government affairs isn't part of regular private sector work, who is going to do that? Do we have at our private sector headquarters, do we have in-house expertise, or do we need outsourced guidance? The same question of, do we have the right legal team? Are we looking at a specific legal team that we need to engage externally who are very experienced in this matter? So understanding government affairs is very important, and it's an add-on. It's not the day-to-day work. And then different IT and business staffing models, so that there's a flexibility, an ability to respond what work is being asked for. And then the final point here is the strategic VMO strategy. The VMO, or vendor management office, will have to grow with the size of the project. We'll have to provide leadership on a day-to-day basis from the vendor. So this is where in the private sector, they're supplying services to the government. They'll need to understand all of the components of the business model, not each function all by itself having its own single thread. The VMO pulls all the threads together to ensure that the staffing and the delivery are happening. I will take a pause there to make sure if there are any questions that need to be raised at this time.
Dear
Anything?
participants, feel free to use your chat box for your questions or comments, because Monica ma'am will answer side by side. If you have any questions or anything to be clarified, you just post your questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so I'll start with my 5 basic rules that I do for any activity is or key adages, I call them, but I remember I learned in India that instead of rule of thumb, we say thumb rules. So for today, I'm adopting that. Number 1 is from Stephen Covey, which I think you will recognize his name. Always start when you're building this model with the end in mind. What does success look like? What do we want to have in place so that it provides the best ability to deliver, ability to manage, ability to course correct as needed? Start with the end in mind. Number 2, in the vendor management space, it's always true that if there are multiple vendors, this is on the government side, if you will, the service recipient side. If there are multiple vendors and they're all excellent firms and they have strategic outlooks of their own, ensure that the vendor management role is that you are the head, you are the captain of the ship. There are many ways that a service provider can try to enter the organization, make small side deals, ask for special favors, ask for forgiveness for errors. These are all things that have to go through the VMO, that have to come through the front door, if you will. So the VMO needs to establish via relationship management strong positions of being the decision maker, the advocate, and I like to call it the ambassador role for any interaction between the service provider and the service recipient. Then the VMO also has to ensure with their internal organization, so if you're a service provider or service recipient, that there's a unified front. In the end, there's a contract, a master services agreement that lays out how the business model needs to function, and all of the parties to that, all of the processes are outlined. There are terms and conditions, that's T's and C's, terms and conditions for those of you who are new to contracts. This business model needs to be clarified. There's a unified front that everybody knows the rules. Finance cannot cut a side deal. A delivery manager cannot ask the service provider to do something that is outside of the contract. And all statement of workflow comes through the vendor management. All of those SOWs need to be approved. And then that also allows the vendor management to be the point of contact for all major disputes. Each project team can solve any small problem, but any dispute of significant size or impact in terms of contractual obligation needs to go through the VMO so that precedents are set. There's full clarity as to how it aligns to the contract. And then the fourth thumb rule, frequently assess and recalibrate possible external impacts. This is at the high level of the program as well as the delivery. And in a public-private partnership, this is going to be a new set of external impacts. The government could change. The funding of the government could change. The timelines for the smart city stand-up could change. These could be well driven by activities that the private sector isn't as informed about. Also, on the other side, the government, who is asking, the service recipient who is asking for this development from the private sector, may not understand that large technology changes are happening all the time and that they could impact which technical choices are being made, create complexity so far as forward compatibility, reverse compatibility of software, and compatibility with other components of the technology stack. These are ongoing, what I would say, education, co-education of both parties in this negotiated partnership. Each party has to make sure they're proactive. So there is a way in which the vendor management can surface a discussion to say, are we looking at any problems that we need to think about that don't appear in our regular day-to-day approach to this? And this is how to do the governance. And then a really important, final but not least important, is to forge the vendor management office team by leading with deep purpose alignment. This is the deep purpose, as I mentioned, by Ranjay Gulati. It is about the 4 C's, who are the customer, who is the community, who are my colleagues, and what is the capital required. But what's most important here in the vendor management space, and I'll mention this again later, uniquely the vendor management ambassadors are interacting with the service recipient and the service provider, their own internal company, and the recipient of their services. The biggest threat is that the vendors would like to poach, as we call it, hire them away. Now that they see there's a very smart person who's been their ambassador to and fro, they see this is a person who understands both sides of this challenge. I want to have that kind of talent. This is important to make sure that your vendor management officers feel they are deeply connected to the purpose of the organization they are represented, and they feel cared for. They feel they are respected and honored. So these are my rules of thumb. Never vary from any of these. These are always there. So I'll take 1 second. I'm going to give you a comparison. I'm going to go through a project management office. There's sometimes a misunderstanding of the difference between a PMO and a VMO. So I'll just go through each and then we'll do a comparison. And each has their part in the success of this negotiated partnership between public and private. So the standard PMO optimizes delivery of the projects, communication, reporting, budget management. And how do they do that? It's top down and it's bottom up in all cases. So we'll go from the top to the bottom. The executive committee, these are the executive heads for the service recipient and the service provider. Both sides of this partnership need to have their own project management office, and they face off with the project management office through the VMO. So the executive heads for all the functions and disciplines. Let's go through first the service provider side. If you're going to commit to become a strategic partner to the government to create a smart city, you need, as a service provider, to ensure you have executive support for all the functional disciplines. Do your lawyers, your attorneys, your legal department understand the complexities of this kind of negotiated partnership? Do your government affairs officials, whether you've have them internally or you've contracted them to support you, do you believe they have the insight and the relationships to make sure you're current, whatever changes might be coming with the government, and to negotiate the particular ways of doing the deal that could be beneficial to both? The CIO obviously needs to understand all the technology support, lots of detail in what those requirements would be. They're able to bring the resources to bear, bring the best technology recommendations, etc. The CEO obviously needs to make sure that they're providing leadership of the organization, can give strategic focus to this partnership. They have many other clients, obviously, but making sure that the company can run effectively if growth is required. If a new location is required, do they open the new site in advance of the deal starting or in the middle of the deal starting? Certainly never before the ink is dry on the contract, but just making sure that they are able to provide the right location, buildings, and the right kind of talent. The head of HR absolutely needs to be at this executive committee table. Their role is to make sure that their training departments, their hiring, recruiting, performance management, all of the policies that the strategic service provider has to ensure that they have a happy and engaged and intelligent and superb workforce, and that they can keep up if more projects come in. If it's a growing company, they cannot be diverting all the best talent over to the new project. They have to make sure they keep that well in place. The CFO, I think we all know what the CFO likes to do. They like to see current spend, current growth, profit and loss, and they want to forecast to make sure that the books are working. Compliance and security, these are the areas that ensure the business model that the service provider is creating, the business model is in place. This is ensuring safety of all of the, if you would call it ODCs, offshore development centers, or you might call it a new name for it to be government work. They'll have to be separate from other projects. They'll have to understand their goals. They have to make sure that they have business continuity, etc., that they have safety in all categories. Underneath an executive committee who's providing that leadership is a steering committee. And this is still a very senior role to make sure that they're making program level decisions. Again, in a PMO, they're very focused on the portfolio of work that's happening, the consolidation of all the projects that the service provider may be performing for the service recipient or the government in this case. So they are making sure that the functional disciplines are in place and that they are disciplines that will allow growth to support all of the changes that could happen during the duration of a project as massive and as important as setting up a smart city. And in this program decision level steering committee, the VMO staff will attend to ensure that they are understanding any needs that the service provider programs need to address. And then at the very bottom, you'll see each of the delivery project teams. So if one team is highway design, another is public transport, another is telecommunications, another is architecting pedestrian shopping areas. Each of them are working with the processes that are standard at the service provider company. Each of them are delivering according to their own schedules, but then it rolls up as a portfolio level to the steering committee to make sure that the telecoms are in place, that the highway team has not developed a design that says highways are going through the pedestrian areas, etc. All of this perfect synchronization needs to go up to the steering committee level to make sure that they have the oversight. So there are oversight and governance at that point. So I will pause there to see if the PMO concept, this is very short, but I'm hoping that it's been clear. I'm looking to see the chat previews, but I can't bring them up on my screen, I guess. Is there anyone who would like to ask a question verbally at this time?
Ma'am,
We have
ma'am, we have one question which has been posted by Miss Lakshmi Devi. Her question is about, is there any consideration in the industry to creating VMO? This is the question which has been raised by Miss Lakshmi Devi.
excellent. Thank you for that question. The VMO is a practice that is working with all of the Indian firms who provide services to multinational organizations. A VMO is most often, the practice is most often that it's on the service recipient side. The same function might have a different name in the service provider side, and that could be what they call the business model head for the relationship with the service provider. So let's say the government is called government and the service provider is Service Inc. Service Inc. would have a relationship manager for government, would be the one who can marshal all the resources, ask all the questions. So this person, he or she, will have a team underneath them, again, doing exactly the same function of ensuring continuity, cross-functional management and coordination. The whole collaboration model would come under this relationship manager. They're focusing just on customer from that perspective, but they draw in all the disciplines. So VMO is a very popular concept when you're the service recipient and you have multiple strategic partners on whom you rely, and that's a long-term commitment in the contracts. And then the relationship manager is the term frequently you hear, customer relationship, if you're the service provider. I hope that helps answer your question.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much. So we have one more question which has been posted by one more participant. Let me read out it. How do you ensure seamless integration between multiple vendors providing different technological solution within a smart city project? So this is the question posted by Ms. Preeti.
Thank you, Ms. Bridges. Excellent question as well. The coordination needs to happen. So the delivery is with the PMO. So the steering committee is here to check decisions as progress is being made. They use for their blueprint what the executive committee has laid down. So there has to be a strategic start, and there's an oversight model to make sure the strategic start is being followed. At the executive level, if a new technology comes out or an unplanned upgrade to a technology has to happen before the delivery of a project, then this is all happening at the executive committee level. This would be, if this is a service provider, the CIO says this must happen. It's disrupting our schedules. I understand that, but the risk dictates that we must do this technology upgrade first. They then take that decision, bring it to internally, they bring it to the PMO to say, how are you going to manage this? How are you going to make sure that this can be implemented on every single project, synchronized for the whole program? Question one. Question two, vendor management office, VMO, how are you going to communicate that to the service provider, right? So it's a coordination that always happens. It's an integration of the VMO and the PMO responsibilities to ensure these, and that one's an external impact that came from the outside that happened. And that synchronization is very, very important. So that's why you'll see on the next slide that the VMO has these same levels and they need to always stay in communication. The number one responsibility of the VMO is to make sure that that coordination happens. I hope that helps. Any more questions? I'm always happy to answer questions. I want to make sure we're synchronized as we go through this material.
Yes, ma'am. I think we are good to proceed the next slide. If any question, I'll let you know, ma'am.
Thank you so much. Okay,
Yeah.
so we'll move to the next. So that was PMO, which is more frequent. More people work with PMOs. Then you have the standard VMO, and the VMO governance optimizes the partnership, the management, the business model, and contract adherence. And what I'm going to say, I put contract adherence down because that really is the bottom line. But what's most important here is the relationship. When you have a strategic partner, if you have to call up the contract to settle a dispute, you've really lost a lot of ground already. The relationship is the resiliency, is the agreement to find a common ground to solve a problem. So the vendor management is a relationship management office. It understands all the details of the business model, perhaps at a higher level because we have experts to go to implement all the details. And they have to understand every aspect of the contract adherence and turn the requirements into relationship building. And I'll give you an example of that. One thing that we did when we worked with our strategic partners when I was at Fidelity India was the offshore development centers were established. We created a very strict guideline for the business model. What is the security, how the safety of the room, the shading of the glass so that no one could see into the room, leave your cell phones outside. All of those things had to be outlined by all of the experts of security, compliance, risk, audit, etc. The VMO brought it to the vendor management team, brought it to the service provider and said, this is what we absolutely have to have. There are no negotiables. We just want this to be implemented. And the vendor management area, the vendor management office is an area of great learning. My experience, and you might be amused to understand this is some time ago, when the headquarters team at the executive committee level, for example, they would say, okay, we need to make sure that service providers understand this. This is something they have to learn how to do. My role, sitting in India, working every day with our India local team and our strategic partners in India, was to inform Boston, guess what? They're actually better at this than we are. They know exactly what they're doing. When we say we have this beautiful business model of which we are so proud, they know that. They know all of those aspects, and they have options for getting that implemented for us. So we need to make some decisions. So the service provider needed to be diplomatic, so it came through the vendor management. Yes, they know what you're asking for. They are ahead of us. This is something that diplomatically, as a vendor management office, I could handle to the executives in Boston so that the service provider doesn't look like they're being arrogant. They're just better at this than we are. So you go through that kind of discussion, and then you implement contractual agreements. And what I did, and I'll go through this again later, I took the understanding that in some cases, the solution the service providers offered us got us better business model terms than what our people in Boston were asking for. So they would say, you absolutely cannot do X, Y, or Z. But the service provider would say, listen, you don't have to keep us from doing X and Y. If we do this third thing, everything is handled. Everything is taken care of. So please don't constrain us when we know we can do it better. And these are things that the vendor management office brings back to the service recipient. So I think that's what I was trying to describe, and I can give a better example later. So here the executive committee, and again, government affairs in this scenario of your smart city, government affairs is going to be very important at this table, because they're going to be able to say, the government would like you to speed up the highway program and slow down the telecoms, or vice versa. Or the government has now announced we've provided additional funding and a new project is going to be added, but it has to be woven in to the deliverable dates and activities of the existing projects. There are very few times when there's an absolute standalone new project introduced. So government affairs needs to help us get ahead of that information, so no one's caught reacting without any advance information. And again, the vendor management team needs to bring to the executive committee these ideas of, maybe the service provider actually has something smarter to recommend than what we said. It does get us the right result. Also, in this space, one thing that I have had to do, I created books about each of the strategic vendors, and I did news clippings. And I found out that certain board members were selling all of their stock in their company. So that's a bad sign for a financial services company. We always look for that as a red flag. If the executives are selling their stock, they're looking to depart. They're losing confidence, or they themselves are no longer part of the management team. What is happening that creates instability? So that's the kind of thing that a vendor management office needs to make sure that we are looking for. Government affairs in this kind of partnership needs to help us. Is that one government minister who's been helping us, is he or she being moved to another role? Or are they promoting and advancing? Is there an opportunity there? These are the questions for government affairs. And the VMO, strategic internal partners to support all the decision-making. We need legal in the vendor management space. We need sourcing, procurement. These are the people who actually create the contracts for us. Legal writes all of the terms in the contracts. Sourcing does the RFP process, request for proposals, and does monitoring of the invoicing and making sure that invoices are being submitted timely, etc. Security compliance, audit. I always recommend frequent in-person audits to make sure the relationship is built at that level and at that point of contact as well. Finance, of course, we need to know what is happening and what finance forecasts we can afford to do. We bring government affairs for education, and the PMOs need to tell us if there's a big problem coming. If there's been a problem with one of the project teams at the service provider, or if there is a technology problem, as I mentioned before, or if there's a technology opportunity that we need to talk about. And then our HR, the service recipient, needs to understand what's happening at the service provider to make sure that they're in agreement with how the HR is being conducted. One of the things, as I said before, the poaching, the intent to actually hire away someone, that goes both ways. My experience was I had to be very careful that people didn't try to hire my direct reports away. But there's also the opportunity that on project teams, people behave badly and they indicate to the service provider, oh, you could become an employee of us rather than the employee of your current firm. And you could just be here with us. You don't have to work for them, no go-between. And service providers cannot exist successfully if we keep hiring their people away. So we have to make sure that our HR policies are synchronized in that way. And then on the bottom, you see the VMO relationship managers. What's happening there? Each one is managing one of the service providers. Again, we're the service recipient. Each one is the ambassador to service provider 1, service provider 2, service provider 3. They have to have an agenda. They have to have consistency of the governance. They have to take a pulse of the relationship. Are we being a good business partner? Is the government telling us what we need to know? Are we asking the government the questions we need to ask? Are we understanding? Have we learned anything else from the other service providers that we now realize we have a gap of information? These are the kinds of things that the VMO relationship manager needs to do. They need good listening skills, They need good negotiating skills. They need strategic and critical thinking. What is the communication? Does it make sense in context? How do I put it as a priority or not a priority for the work that we have to get done? And again, as I said, and this probably needs to be another thumb rule, once you have to refer to the contract to manage a dispute, you've lost a lot of ground in building the relationship. And the relationship is how all of the work is going to get done. So it's very, very important that this is a renewal, constant renewal of the relationship as the vendor management ambassador meets with the service provider. And as we have said before, at the service provider, they frequently call it relationship manager. They also have to bring this wholesome view of the customer to the discussion table. Okay, so now what I'm going to do, I've given you the PMO and the VMO, and now I'd like to just do a side-by-side comparison so that it makes sense to you, how they're different and how they interweave for success. So this traditional PMO role, again, inward facing, they're making sure their work gets done, that all of the project teams are delivering, or that their issues are very transparently escalated to the PMO, because the PMO is responsible for the whole portfolio of projects. Delivery, quality, cost oversight, governance, what choices can we make? How could we help a team that's struggling with a team that's over-prepared? What is the portfolio view by business or infrastructure? So for example, as we mentioned in a smart city program, you could have projects in the portfolio that are about highway development. What are the rules about the height of buildings? What are the rules about access to the airport? What are rules about public transport? Do they overcut each other? Do they conflict? Or how do you synchronize them? This is all happening at the PMO. They also take a role in the PMO for the delivery process. They are the standard bearer. They ensure with the IT people or the business process people, those functional areas, is the delivery process transparent enough so that the PMO can do their role at the portfolio level, being able to see transparently through each project because they have standard milestones, standard issue reporting, standard responsibility roles, excuse me. And when they have this role as standard bearer, they're able to ensure accountability and adherence of their own internal organization. On the other hand, the traditional VMO role is outward and inward facing. So the VMO has to depend on the PMO to be very, very successful at their role, so that there are no surprises coming up, no failures that should have been foreseen. And then outwardly, they're fostering a very positive relationship, because with a good relationship, people are honest, excuse me, people trust one another, and they're also able to hear recommendations from the service providers that may be better than the dictates of the service recipient. There's always an opportunity to learn something. Excuse me 1 second, I need to take a quick drink of water. Thank you. So outward and inward, they have diplomacy, they have enforcement, they have negotiation, and they have optimization of the partnership. Now, I say negotiation, I say diplomacy, it's carrot and stick. They have to understand how the MSA works, and we'll get to that when we talk about how we ask them to rank and score each of the service providers with what I like to say is a gentle sense of competition among the service providers. So the traditional VMO role also handles the outsourcing business model oversight. If the security people have to add something, if the business continuity team would like to introduce a test, a simulation of some kind of disruption of service, is there safe work through of a drill or a dry run of if there were a business continuity problem, how is that handled for the safety of the staff? We're also the master services agreement standard bearer. Each of the, so if you have multiple service partners, each of the master services agreement have to be consistent so that there's fair competition. And the standard bearer, if a change is requested or made or negotiated, it has to be rolled out to each of the strategic partners at the same time. And then the reaping, the optimization of the strategic partnership, there are thought leadership opportunities that the service providers can offer. And service providers should be ensured they should themselves look for opportunities to bring thought leadership, so they're not just a vendor. They really are a partner. They're bringing smarter strategic thinking because they're focusing on something different than the government. The government wants a smart city in the end. The service provider wants, yes, to deliver everything, but they also want to be in the thought creation, the strategic forecast, the strategic outlook of what is possible to deliver in these capabilities. So they have many value additions that if you're only strictly adhering to a contract instead of also fostering the relationship, encouraging this kind of value add has so much benefit to the relationship and to the outcome. So this is something that a VMO really has to pay attention to, which is not in the traditional PMO role or anywhere else in the organization. They look at best practices, they look at industry engagement, and the service providers are obviously focusing more on technology investment than the service recipient. That's why they have a partnership like this. So all of these things can be harvested from a healthy VMO relationship. So hopefully that is exactly short. This is just a short cheat sheet, if you will, on what's different. And the different talent requirements for each of the organizations are very important. Whom to hire into each of these roles needs a very clear profile, and your HR team needs to understand this because there's different engagement, different management. Okay, I'm going to suggest we could take a 4 or 5 minute break. I don't know how you've been running each of these sessions. Do we have time for a break at this time, Dr. Tiwari?
If you're comfortable, we are fine to continue. Monica, if you are thinking that we can take a break, we'll take a break for 5 minutes. That's absolutely fine with us.
I'm fine with this. I don't want to just be driving through. As long as you think it's okay to continue, I can continue.
I think it's better we continue, Monica, and then we'll take the Q&A and then we'll close the session. Is that okay?
Excellent. Yes, happy to do that. Okay, so
Sure.
now we're at the development strategic partner program. How do you set this up? How do you put the pieces together so that you actually get the end result you want? Again, always thinking with the end result in mind. First step, and you keep in mind also executive committee, steering committee, and those who are implementing on the front lines. The strategy definition is very, very important, and I'll go through it from the service recipient side first, and then I'll go back through the process again and illustrate how it's slightly different on the service provider side. So first, strategy. What has to happen in the strategy discussions is to identify everything that is not negotiable. Absolute deal breakers, no reason to get started working together, because if you can't deliver this, we can't be partners, right? So identify all of those. And those are generally things like, is the strategic partner in good standing, right? I'm the government now, I'm the service recipient. I don't want to work with anyone who's got lawsuits, right? That's, you have to clear your lawsuits before we can work together. Intellectual property is always part of one of these contracts. Who will end up owning the intellectual property in the end? Always a top topic. What are the business model? Can you, for example, the government service recipient will say, I need you to operate in 3 or 4 different key regions. If this is a federal project and we're giving federal funds, and it's a city that's going to be in, Bhubaneswar, I don't know, pick the place. I'm going to put the city there, but I want that entire state to have 80% of the ability to generate that city. I want that state. So I need you to have a location, a site where your team is working. I want you to hire from that area, bringing in a mix of talent from other areas. But these are the requirements that absolutely have to happen. If you've got federal money and state money, be expecting something like that. You have to create a geographic footprint where the smart city is going to be, with some percentage of the team hired from that location. Compliance requirements, background vetting. This is very high standard. Obviously, the government's going to have it as high as possible. Financial services and pharma are actually very, very extremely high in their requirements in this area. Fair business practices. This is quite important because you want to make sure there's not a lot of turnover. Turnover in the staffing creates disruption. No one wants that. Fair practices, no lawsuits and pending, and that they are understanding the dispute management process, how the process will work, how the service, again, I'm the government at this time, how I will manage a dispute and make a call for a decision. And then there's penalty and termination clauses. So the government has to make some very strong decisions about what's non-negotiable and outline those to themselves. They need to all agree with each other. There are many players, no doubt. If Indian government is anything like our upcoming administration. So that's important to know. That's step one. Scope, defining the scope of the strategic partnership. How does the strategic partner interact with the government? What is the business model? Again, this is reinforced in an MSA timeframe, geography, development, production support. You may be asked to continue and train the utility organization. And there's an official handoff where those who are developing walk away from those who will hold on to service providing on a day-to-day basis. This is the scope that has to be considered. I put in there data center, the cloud. Sometimes you're doing production support. Sometimes you're doing new development. That scope has to be outlined because that will help the service recipient / government, in this case, help them know what the profile of the perfect partner would be. They have to be very good at it. They have to present track record of doing things this complex successfully. This in this specific area that we're looking for. If you want highway development, has this team done this very effectively? Architected a city plan? Have they done telecoms successfully? What was the size of their development? So this is the scope. We need to make sure, me and the government here, I need to understand the scope of what this work is, and then talk to the strategic partners. And you'll down select, in fact, probably after step 3 here, you'll need to down select because suitability in any negotiated relationship, suitability is it's some of it's feeling, some of it's relationship, some of it is your track record does not indicate to me that you're able to do this. I just don't feel like this is a good risk to take. So compatibility of leadership. So there have to be executive meetings where the relationship is discussed. The opportunity of the relationship is laid out to various service providers who seem appropriate. Have they been able to grow strategically? Do they attract talent? Do they have smart management? What is their geographical redundancy, especially in a case like this? You're building a city, selected Bhubaneswar, but you're building a city somewhere. And are you going to be able to back it up if there's some kind of climate problem in that area, et cetera? And is the infrastructure robustness of your site, you service provider, is it going to be able to be effective? And do you have flexible support options? Do you have people who can work? Does it require a second shift? That was always a favorite request out of Boston until the service providers convinced us, demonstrated to us, second shift is not what's necessary. We know how to do this. Okay, the senior management presentation. This is the service provider comes in. And again, I would suggest between step 3 and step 4, you've downsized. You've met with some of these firms and you realize this is not going to be the right relationship for us going forward. So you down select in 4, you are able to conduct senior management presentations where here becomes the important discussion. What kind of value add can you provide while you're delivering this architecture for highways? What can you teach us in government that would be useful to us? And I say in here, it's technology, it's delivery process, knowledge transfer, training, white papers for what other parts of the world are doing for their smart cities, making sure that we're looking at status rating. What are the architectural industry standards that, Europe, Asia, the United States, China are all sharing, or where they conflict? And look at all of those capabilities and the financial health of the firm. That would be presented by a subset of service providers. And when you've had this senior management, is there a good relationship experience in that dialogue? Then you do an invitation to an RFP. And this is very standard. And I think everyone here probably knows about how the RFP process works. But basically, you take the outline of what is going to be the master services agreement, and you ask the firms you would like to participate to answer questions that would demonstrate how you would work within this framework of the master services agreement. Okay, deep breath. Let's go through those same steps if you are the service provider. So you're the strategic partner who wants to have a relationship with the government. You go into the strategy. What are your non-negotiables? We will not be dictated to in these areas, right? You can't tell me whom I have to hire. I don't want you in my hiring process, government. I don't want you, I won't let you see the background vetting outcomes. I will tell you that our process is, if anyone has this set of black marks in their background vetting, we don't hire them, right? And I will give you those numbers, but they'll be anonymized. I'm not telling you anything about that. I understand that there will be some penalties, and I understand I would be able to agree to this kind of penalty and not that kind of penalty. I will not be called out publicly. This will be how will we negotiate a dispute. We won't do it in the public forum. It's just between the government officials and the service provider. So that's what a service provider has to say. Okay, what are the guardrails, the absolute boundaries of what we'll agree to strategically? And they also have to think in next step in the scope, how far do I want our company to be involved in this project? Will it be a drain of our resources if we bid for work in both the highway creation and the pedestrian space? Do we have to select where we want to participate? Because we have a whole book of business already. We're going to grow, and then we're going to take 10% out of existing resources so that the expertise is there, but we'll add new resources guided by those 10%. Are we really going to be ready to set up an operating location in Bhubaneswar? What are the requirements? Let's talk about what we can or cannot do. That's a possibility. And then suitability. Is the government the right kind of partnership for how our company is running now? It may be that demands are put on us as a private sector participant that are different from the government. And is that something we want to do? Do we have to have more relationship managers and over focus on certain aspects of business because this customer, this service recipient, is a different blend? And think about it. Is it useful for us? Is it the right thing for us to do? Do we want to do it because of our purpose? Does it make sense for our customers, our community, our colleagues, and our capital? That's the suitability question. Is our purpose aligned with working for the government in this kind of project? So that has to be considered. Then if the answer is yes, one raises one's hand to say, I'd like to make a senior management presentation, conveying those points. This is important to us because it's important to you, the government, and it's important to our community that they say we engage, they see how we engage in projects like this and help smart cities be developed in India or other countries to the extent that happens. And what we would like to do is we have a foundation where as we build the pedestrian area, we'd like to plant trees. We'd like to create green space. We'd like to create opportunities for better recycling, et cetera. So there are ways that value adds in the senior management. This makes sense because we're doing it anyway. It's part of our purpose. We have a foundation who does this, and our employees are very engaged with the foundation so that we can be a positive presence in the community. So that aligns. That would come out in the senior management presentation. And then the RFP, those kinds of opportunities are not clarified as well in the RFP, so that senior management presentation is very important. So that's the process from both sides of the negotiated agreement. Any questions on that before I go to the next step?
I was just thinking loud, Monica. Maybe it will help other audience as well, because when we are establishing this kind of program, what sort of KPIs would you suggest, especially when we are talking about the sustainable urban growth?
Right, right. The KPIs, again, always a negotiation between the two parties, but I think it's very, very important in this strategy and scope sections that the KPIs be brought to the front. So, and this is what is absolutely not negotiable. The deadlines have to be met. Well, okay, timelines can change. KPI is you have to be within 3 months of a 12-month deliverable. You have to be on time. I'm just throwing out an example. So the KPIs would have to be, you are within 10% of delivery date, 10% of delivery quality. So there may be some shortcuts that are accepted in order to make the delivery, but it has to be, all has to be negotiated. You cannot have financial overruns, right? More than 10%. This is all covered in the master services agreement to say you are responsible to raise the issue and tell us if you're going to be more than 10% of a financial overrun, because then the government will prepare to have that in place. So financial delivery, timely invoicing is very, very important so that everyone knows the financial delivery transparency. You have to do that. So invoice timeliness, delivery and payment, so that both parties feel they're on solid ground with the financials. Any issue that is raised about the workforce, KPI. So you have to make sure that you're able to replace anyone who leaves within, and you can pick a time frame that works, depending on the time frame of the project, within 3 weeks. So you want a strategic partner who's large enough to be able to say, one of my key people who is actually sitting in the Bhubaneswar office, I'm going to pull 3 people from Bangalore to cover that gap. And then I will hire someone locally for that. So those are the KPIs. Your ability to deliver is about timeliness and transparency of financials, timeliness and transparency of delivery, timeliness and transparency of the talent. And there are also KPIs that are embedded into the master services agreement about the business model. Many, many, many of how well you're managing for safety for your staff, for your security and your compliance and your server room, protections, all of that are in place. So there's a full list of those, and I can follow up with a very detailed list if that's useful information for the audience.
Probably we can share later as a part of the notes, Monica, if you have your consent.
Sure.
I just want to continue when we're discussing about the KPI, and then especially when we are looking for fostering the collaboration with the strategic partners. What would you suggest? Because I know you have been in depth in this area. What would be the 1 or 2 recommendations would you be able to give to our audience that, okay, how can we foster the collaboration?
Okay, great. Most importantly, I find it is understanding the purpose of the other organization. What makes them proud of their best work? Because what you want is their best work. So how can you engage with them that honors and is curious about their best work? I know that sounds soft as opposed to hard, But that's the starting point. Create the environment where everyone wants to bring their best work forward. And this is ways to do that are to say, I see that I am aware, okay, I'm going to say as a service recipient first, I am aware that you've done these other projects in other places. For example, you've done highway development or telecoms throughout Vietnam as they've been building up. What are the most important lessons you've learned? So connect with them as people who are learning, growing, continually pushing themselves forward. What can you tell me? And that may be new information, or maybe information you already know, but that you're engaging and respecting their contributions. Because respecting the contribution of both parties is how the relationship is successful. I would start with that. I would start with having regular, consistent meetings. Key agendas. Key agenda items are PMO progress report, of course, major successes since we last met, once a month, say. Major successes. What milestones have you met? What challenges have you met? I'm looking at your PMO report and my PMO report. They're synchronized or they're not synchronized. Those are issues. Problems, issues, concerns. Dialogue about them on a consistent basis. Now, when you think about this, this is service provider 1, service recipient 1. But the VMO has to look at it service provider 2 and service recipient 2 and look for problems across that. That's where the VMO KPIs are most important. What is happening across all of the service providers and all of the service recipients? What is good behavior? Look for that, acknowledge that, recognize they must be proud of that. Excuse me. And identify and discuss openly bad behavior, right? You've lost 10% of the staff in Bhubaneswar. What's wrong? What's happening? And it could be, it always starts with a question. I'm curious. And if someone says this requirement that you've made of us to hire 80% of the staff in Bhubaneswar, they just don't have the educational resources to provide the right talent there, that 80% KPI that you set, that needs adjustment. If you want me to deliver this, I can recommend A, B, C, but that 80%, it doesn't work. Open dialogue. Those are the most important things to start that. But then the consistency of the scorecarding, and I do have some scorecarding slide that I can show you that might be helpful to illustrate this.
Yeah, so concluding to with that, I just have one question. If you won't feel like answering now or maybe later,
Sure.
I'll leave it to your choice. When we are looking into the VMO and what sort of strategies a VMO should implement when we have to evaluate the onboarding vendors specialized in the emerging technologies, because as we are theming around the smart mobilities. So that I leave it to your choice, Monica. You want to answer now?
Sure, I'll touch on it now, and then I'll show you how it works with one of the slides later.
Yeah.
But anything that the service recipient, so if we want to know what's happening with emerging technologies, that's where the executive committee has to say, I commit, we have dedicated some of our own staff, or we have a standing department that is reviewing emerging technologies. They need to engage with that same party at the service provider and test them, robustly discuss, find the weak spots, find the advances they might have over the service recipient, because a service recipient reaches out to a service provider like this for strategic partnership because the strategic partner is investing differently than the service recipient. I don't have time to be looking at all new emerging technologies. I know that service provider A, B, and C in India are ahead of us. So that's why we want to be in partnership with them instead of just a vendorship. They are doing the right investing. I have a responsibility to audit, try to find how accurate their information is, look at their track record and evaluate how successfully they've delivered projects with those technologies, what kind of gold, platinum service provider standard do they have with those technologies, so that I can validate what they present is their ability to handle emerging technologies that I myself may not be investing in full scale. That's why I want them to be my partner. So I will test and double check and audit, and I will go to third parties sometimes to give me what is the exact information and standing of this particular service provider in that space. So we'll go back and in a slide or two, we'll see some more about that. But definitely that needs to be probed in a very detailed fashion. Okay, here's the RFP down select process, and this may or may not be very familiar to people. There's a partner RFP presentation. It's a standard outline, so they all look the same. We look at the negotiation process. I won't go into too much detail, but this is where many of these high-level KPIs are, Dr. Tawari. And the Q&A goes back and forth. And when you negotiate this, you create a negotiation scorecard. So every service provider is always clear. They are not presenting themselves as the only contestant. They are being compared to their competitors. If we can say, if you have 3 active in the negotiation, you can say, oh, you can't agree to that? You don't think that KPI will work? Okay, so I'll mark on the scorecard, you cannot agree to that, right? So there's a tough negotiation. I think it's fair to tell you the other 2 service providers in discussion have already agreed, but if you want to say no, and they frequently at that point say, we'll find a way to do it, right? So this negotiation scorecard, and the scorecarding is very important because they know they're competing to get the contract, and then the VMO will keep them competing to give their best work forward. So this scorecarding comes in right at the very beginning. The RFP committee does an on-site due diligence, validating the safety, et cetera. And then you negotiate with the final candidates back and forth, as I just described, and then you have a contract. So you get the best and final set of partners. Key value negotiations, highest standards for business process. What we put into the contract are penalties. So these KPIs, whichever selection of KPI you have, you put a rewarding and a penalty. And one of the things I used to do is I would create a penalty that said, if you are, I can't say exactly, but X percent financially over, or X percent late, delay in delivery, I'm going to put that on your scorecard, and your aggregate score will determine if, number 1, you are able to take on new projects, because new projects are coming all the time. You are green to receive new projects, bid for new projects. You are yellow, which means you can keep the current portfolio of work, but you must remedy this lateness or this overage before you can bid for new work. And then the worst category, you do not want to have your scorecard aggregate to this, which is you have to finish the work you're doing and you're no longer allowed to bid for anything. You have to give up. Your portfolio will be handed to one of your competitors. Very bad place to be. And so that's the scorecarding that is ongoing. Those are the penalties. Another, because it's a non-negotiable, is security, safety of the employees in the site. What kind of penalty I would put there is if you continue to fail and do not remedy, sustained remedy over 3 months, we will continue to audit. If you cannot remedy that and you cannot get this non-negotiable service aspect in control, we will be asking you to deliver X percent of last quarter's earnings. It'll be put in escrow. So if you earned with us last quarter, you earned not net profits. What you earned was $1 million. We'll take, say, 15%. That's a little higher than it actually was, but 15% of that, put that in escrow. You owe us that. We hold that. You cannot invest that money elsewhere for your purposes of your business. You have that until you remedy that problem. It creates a very strong incentive to not have money put in escrow. Those are terms that I like to use because it makes very, very clear how serious we are. And the service providers never want to go there. So they do many, many, many efforts to never go there. just like they never want to be told they have to give their work, their contract to a competitor. That kind of information is industry death. So they do every kind of investment to avoid that. So that's what we do with penalties and rewards, ensuring consistent visits from both parties all the time on site to make sure that any of the key functions or disciplines are very familiar with their counterparties in this multi-year strategic partnership, especially the auditors. I never like auditors to find surprises. I want them to always be there. And this also should be happening at the C-suite level for each of these areas. Industry reporting requirements, board actions. This is what I mentioned before, where I discovered one of our service providers' board member was selling off all his shares. I knew something was happening at the firm. I pulled them in and they met with executive C-suite at the time. And if there's anything in the paper about criminal activity that can happen by any member, we definitely want to know that before it goes to press. That's a very bad scorecard problem if you haven't done that. Proactive communication with impact, potential impact to the relationship. Both sides need to do that. I say here gently remind, that's a very sweet way of saying what I actually did. Scorecarding about the competition for any new business, because none of these projects, I mean, they all have different starting times. So if you're doing the telecommunications, you have staff, you're winding down as a service provider, the delivery is going to happen. What to do with that staff? You want the next project for that staff to work on. If you are failing at your deliveries, you are not allowed to bid for the next project. That staff you have a bigger problem to solve where they go. And so this is something they will do a lot of very good work to make sure they never get to that part. And then keep encouraging this engagement of what their strategic outlook is for their company. Are they going to continue to grow? Are they deciding they don't want to do any more work in Bhubaneswar? It didn't work out for them. They want to move back. So they're not going to be able to do this smart city. They might do a smart city in a different location, but not this one. And that's a bad black mark for them, right? Because the government wants you to be as resilient and flexible a partner as possible. Okay, this is the scorecarding, strategic partner collaboration. The VMO does all the synthesizing of every single aspect, KPIs, of the audits and the performance rating and create a comprehensive scorecard. And what I like to call it best in class. They all wanted to be number one, but not only one can be number one. Business model compliance, very important. This is comprised of all of our non-negotiables. How are they managing cybersecurity, HR, VMO? We go through and do ratings on all of this. Audit teams from each of the specific groups are joining us as we do this. Delivery performance, this is from the PMO, full clarity, all of the KPIs about performance of delivery, plus the KPIs of the business model. Then number 3 is dispute resolution. How willing, how positively did they come to the negotiation table in a dispute? What had to be escalated to the VMO? Did we have to split the financial loss? Do we have to always trying to understand and learn from how the dispute came about? How forthcoming, how transparent is the service provider, et cetera? And then the ratings impact, as I mentioned, we rate them as if there are 3 strategic partners in an area, you're first in class, second in class, third in class. No one wants to be third in class. We never mention the other 2, but they obviously know who they are. So if I am a service provider whom I see a report card that says I am third in class against these 2 other, I know that this is not my strategic market position where I want to be. I will do a lot. I will invest a lot to get my ratings up, to perform better. And as I said, it can be that if they do not remedy something, especially in the non-negotiable area, quickly enough within the guidelines of remedy requirements, they will be denied access to new business. That's also a very bad place to be. So this is how the scorecarding works. And again, this could be a whole conversation itself, how to create that scorecarding and effective scoring. And then just quickly, what are the top challenges for managing a vendor management? You have to make sure that these people all believe they are leaders. They are leaders. They're synthesizing all this material. They're giving sensible answers, things that can be understood to management, so that engagement and initiative from service provider and service recipient remain high. They have to be able to develop. So what we do, what I have always done, is to make sure that the purpose of the role, as well as the purpose of both of the companies, is very, very clearly reiterated. So I think I better pause right here to make sure we can get some questions in. And then I had more about the business practices I used, if that's interesting as well.
Dear participants, if you have any question, please feel free to post your question in the chat box.
And because I'm sharing my screen, I guess the chat is not coming up. So if anyone can read to me any questions. I'm very happy to answer questions.
Ma'am, we have two questions. The first question is how to reduce retention rate of employees. This question is posted by Dr. Ananta Lakshmi. Could you please answer, ma'am?
Yes, I'm happy to answer that. Reducing retention. The service provider needs to have the best programs in place if they want to be competitive. And there's a part that the service provider plays and the service recipient or customer pays. The customer has to always be respectful. There are those who do not understand a healthy strategic partnership. They have to be taught by the VMO, this is not appropriate, right? So you're never going to have good retention if you're not respectful and looking at the health of the relationship. The health of the relationship is key. So you can put a requirement, a KPI of your retention rates have to be at this level, but you can't force that. So how do you encourage that? And the retention is to make sure that the work is it's good work that's challenging to the right kind of person, that the conversations of every participant in each project always healthy, always positive. You're engaging the partnership on every level. The work has to be interesting. So the service provider has to make sure they're honestly telling their staff what the work is. It's not you're launching a moon rocket, you're developing a highway system. It's some nitty-gritty of telecoms and utilities, but there'll also be some projects in future for you that are more interesting. They have to align the right staff to the right work. They have to pay them well. And these are the things we don't ask what their pay rates are. We can, and it has been done. But what we need to say is give me your retention rate, because that tells me if you're paying a market competitive rate. Honesty, teamwork, positive relationship, correct compensation as determined by the service provider as a market leader, and the work is aligned with their capability. Does that answer?
Yes, ma'am. So we have few more questions. The next question is, can you please explain the significance of negotiation scorecard?
Yes. Okay. So when you're in a negotiation with these service providers, you've broken the outline of the contract down to these are the terms. These are the terms and conditions. So you have, say, 125. As you are negotiating with all three of them concurrently, they're not sitting together. You're doing one-on-one, one-on-one, one-on-one with three strategic partners, say. They may see risks differently to agreeing to those terms and conditions, or it might cost them money they don't want to spend, right? They think if they say no, they won't have to spend that money. They can spend that money elsewhere with their strategic direction. But if you say to them, it is a leveraging aspect of the negotiation. This is what the service provider wants, the service recipient wants, the government. The service provider may not want to do it. But if they do know this scorecard that we keep to ourselves, we do not share with them. Internally, the service recipient / government keeps the scorecard to say who is more agreeable than the others, who is more willing, and does it matter that they're agreeable? They have to be agreeable to the non-negotiables. Why are they giving intelligent answers to why they can't agree to some of the terms? Or are they just yesing us? We don't want to be yesed because we want delivery. Or are they just trying to negotiate hard to save money for themselves or to establish themselves as primary in this relationship? You have to understand that as it goes on. So we use the scorecard just for ourselves to say, both of your competitors have said yes to the terms. What reasons can you share with us why you're resisting this? And if they have intelligent answers, always good information. Why did the other two say yes? But if they're just trying to establish themselves as stronger in the partnership, and that does happen, then you have to use the scorecard to help them understand they are losing ground in this negotiation. Even though they might get the contract signed to all three strategic partners, the other two are more agreeable, they're going to get more work.
Thank you, ma'am. And the next question is, what are the strategies for the startups adopt to go for vendor management?
The startup companies always need to proactively make a relationship with the vendor management office. So I spoke with almost every vendor in India during my 3 years, startups, small firms, boutique firms, but establishing the relationship with the vendor management office is key because procurement, if you will, procurement is very, very focused on one thing, price, right? They don't understand that services can be very different from staplers, paper, coffee cups, right? To them, it's a commodity. And the users of the services do not share that. So the VMO has to be their representative. So get in there before they go to procurement, to supply management, whatever it's called in your firms, and to make sure that they have a relationship. I can offer you this. And that relationship will grow, but they have to be prepared and understand that will take some time to grow.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, are you taking few more
Yeah.
questions or are you continuing the slide, ma'am?
How much more time do we have?
I think we are on time. We are on
Oh, we're
time.
out of time. We're out of time.
Yes,
Okay,
we can.
whatever the audience prefers, the rest of it is just my management principles, and I'll happily come back anytime to share those, but I want to address questions of the group.
Sure. So, Monica, in the interest of the time, what I would really request you, we can share your slides with our audience, and probably if they have any more queries, I will be reverting back to you directly. So, I hope that is fine with you.
That is absolutely fine, and I'll put this deck out on my website to make it
Sure,
available if that's
sure.
interesting. Okay.
So, I'll be sharing your contact details with all of our participants. So, I hope they will be able to reach you directly.
Yes. I
All
hope
right.
this
So,
was beneficial. I just wanted to share how positive my experience was in India, and I thank everyone for your time. I am happy to answer your questions.
sure. So, over to Karthik, sir.
Hi, Monica. Uh, Good morning there for us. Good evening, all the participants here.
Yes.
Monica, before I thank you for a wonderful session that you had with all of us, I just had one a question that I am expecting a short answer from you. Like, when we talk about risk management, the public and the private tech sectors have different approaches to it. Like,
Mhm.
correct, no? Like, how do we expect, especially the growing countries like India? So, what is that? Can we mitigate that with the help of PPP model? We do have certain projects in India running with PPP model, but risk management, when we talk about, it's completely different.
I agree with that. And I could ask you for an example, but I think the better way to go is to say risk management needs to be a very detailed strategic level conversation early in the process and clarification, and let risk management people talk to risk management people across the partnership. Get them involved, get them in detail, because your service recipient risk people need to have full clarity. So and we had some of this, it's a great question, where people say, I want to make sure that when you're building a building for us, for example, US standards around labor force are always maintained, and fire hazards are kept to this level, et cetera. And alarm systems have to be like this. But the risk managers, talking to the risk managers, were able to determine that the safety that was established by the risk managers locally in India, although different from the US standards, were just as safe. So there has to be detailed clarification. What is the goal? The goal is safety of the staff. How are you accomplishing that? And then they go through test scenarios. And then you go through simulations. And you get to realize, they actually realize, okay, this works just as well as what I had said. I can agree to your terms. But it has to be risk management professionals talking to each other, because that, if you get too interpretive in that, no one gets anywhere. So
Thank you so much, Monica. Thank you so much for your presence and accepting our invite on behalf of ACT, on behalf of St. Francis College, on behalf of the coordinators and all the participants. Thank you so much for your time, early morning over there, but you were with us to ensure to deliver the talk on public-private partnership for smart city development and vendor management business VMO models with all the participants. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Join me in thanking Monica Smith, CEO founder, Tradewinds Career Consulting, Boston, USA. Monica, thank you so much for your presence and for the knowledge sharing. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's my absolute pleasure to be in touch with Bangalore again.
Yeah, it's our pleasure. Thank you so much. Over to
Thank you
Sonia.
so much,
Ma'am,
Monica.
yeah,
Thank-
once again, thank you, ma'am, on behalf of the entire organizing committee. So it's pleasure being it's a really an insightful session. So definitely your insights into the complexities of collaboration between public and private sectors and the strategic approaches to managing vendor relationship have truly deepened our understanding of these critical areas, ma'am. Once again, thank you so much. And thanks for sharing your knowledge and experience with us today, despite of your busy schedule. And we look forward to have many more enlightening interactions in the future as well, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. I look forward to
So,
everyone have a
Monica,
wonderful end of the
thank
year.
you
Yeah.
once again. I know it's a pretty early morning in Boston, and many wishes for the Christmas coming. And we look forward to work again with you.
Thank you so much. What a pleasure. And thank you for inviting me, Pankaj. I really
Have a
appreciate
good
it.
day to you.
Thank you. Bye-bye, everyone.
Yes, you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Sonia ma'am, I believe Swapnil is
Yeah,
already
yeah.
there with us.
Yes, ma'am.
Swapnil,
Yes. Shall we start? The second session?
Swapnil, you are there with us?
Yeah. I
Yes,
gave him
sir.
co-host option
Sure,
already, ma'am. I think
sure.
we are good to start the second session.
Okay. Sure, I think we can go ahead, ma'am.
Yeah. Our next session is on the topic of paramount importance, that is smart logistic and supply chain management. To deliver this session, we are honored to welcome Mr. Swapnil Taparia, Head Salper Trading, Aditya Birla Global Trading, Dubai, UAE, a distinguished industry leader and an expert in supply chain management. It is my absolute pleasure to introduce our esteemed resource person for today's second session, Mr. Swapnil, a distinguished business leader with a remarkable career spanning over 25 years in global commodities trading and international shipping. Currently, he serves as the president of Aditya Birla Global Trading, and Mr. Tapadia leads the Salper and shipping vertical from Dubai, overseeing a multinational team of over 15 professionals and managing operations in more than 30 countries. Under his visionary leadership, the sulfur trade volume at ABGT has skyrocketed from 250,000 metric tons to an incredible 3 million tons, positioning the company as the third largest sulfur traded globally. Before joining the Aditya Birla Group, Mr. Tapadia gained invaluable experience with the Tata Group, honing his skills in operational management, Beyond his professional achievements, Mr. Swapnil is a passionate sports enthusiastic, enjoying cricket, table tennis, and carom. A sought out after speaker, Mr. Taparia recently delivered a talk on the sulfur market at an international fertilizer conference in Abu Dhabi. And we are truly honored to have such an inspiring and accomplished leader with us today. Please join me in extending a warm welcome to Mr. Swapnil Tapadia. Without further ado, I request Mr. Swapnil to kindly take the virtual platform and enlighten us with your knowledge and insight on the topic. Welcome, sir.
Thank you so very much. I think uh, I don't know whether from you're reading from somewhere, because the amount of appreciation you have done is like, we are here simple business people and we just do business. That's all I know about myself. So thanks a lot for all those kind
Thank
words.
thank
And
you, sir. Are you able to share the screen, sir? So
yeah,
you can share your screen.
can you see that?
No, sir, not it.
Yes. Swapnil, before you start, I'm really thankful for you because I know you have a very time box schedule today, and we will see. We will also try to close with the time bound.
Not a problem, ma'am. Thank you so much. First of all, thanks to you to invite me for this talk over here. And I just want to tell you, that I have prepared very basic kind of presentation because I'm involved into international logistics, which is largely shipping. And I wasn't aware that, shipping can be it can sometimes be boring for people to kind of keep going into detail. So I've prepared a very basic presentation. If anyone wants to get something in detail, please feel free to contact me. So let me start my presentation.
Sure, sure. Please go ahead, Swapnil, without any hesitation.
Yeah,
And I'm sure we will have many more queries coming in between, so we'll be reading out for you. Thank you so
sure.
much.
So like I have prepared my presentation with the six kind of agendas, like smart cities, logistics, mobility, industry 4.0, and startup ecosystem. And then of course summary and question and answer. So smart cities, this is the definition of smart cities as you can see here. Uh, what I could understand from a smart city largely is integration of technology into a strategic approach to sustainability. When we see the cities, and especially from our childhood, when we see the cities, uh, most of the cities were having a system where almost everything was without technology. So when you go out, uh, you have to search for a cab, you have to search for a mobility system, you have to search for your ride, and you are kind of depending on what is available on the road, and you are trying to find out. So mostly in the smart cities, we are kind of integrating all this availability of transportation system, and that too along with sustainability, so with the low carbon economy, and supporting innovation and other things. What are the key elements of a smart city is improving lives and livelihoods of residents. So improving life, uh, there can be many aspects of lives. There can be entertainment systems, there can be availability of employment, there can be availability of water 24/7, the electricity availability 24/7, social infrastructures in the cities, and public transport systems availability and importance given to that. I somehow could take an example of Singapore because Singapore is somewhere Southeast Asia. It's far more Asian country, and we all in India can relate to the country because many of us also travel to that place. This is the picture of 2000, and this is the current picture. What we can observe in the current picture is that along with all the infrastructure development which they have done, you can see a lot of greenery around. So basically, the country is still, maintaining its environmental responsibility in place, along with the development, along with the technological development, and along with all the transport system and everything. The environment they are trying to keep as as good as possible. And we have seen, like I've been able to go to Singapore number of times, and what I could see is the way they are using transport system also in that country is amazing. I mean, the cars are so expensive. Only people who really need the cars will be provided with the cars, and that's how they are trying to maintain the environment and leaving the less carbon footprint. So, what is a comprehensive urban plan? In the smart city, largely we are planning like how to use the land, how to do the housing of the housing for people, transportation system, community facilities, and then what are the economic developments, critical sensitive areas, natural hazards, agriculture lands, optional elements agar like some temples or mosques or gurudwaras for people who want to go for praying and all those kind of all kind of things. So what the along with the business and along with the development, like use of land, if we see currently most of the developers around in the country would like to make buildings everywhere. So we when we see in our country, when we go to Bombay or other big cities, the kind of use of land has been taken is something we are kind of overusing or overutilizing the resource. Similarly, in case of transportation, though there's a lot of improvement, but still there's we all are facing problems of traffic and crowd and everything. So these are the aspects which need to be planned in a smart city in a manner that the city becomes viable for and it viable for the people to live, as well as it gives you a quality of life. The second agenda is mobility. So digital innovation has been able to do has been able to help us in planning our travels smartly. Largely, if you can see user journey boosters, ticketing solutions, optimization tools. So when we see today, there's in our childhood, when I used to go to wanted to plan my travel by railways, I needed to go to railway station, get into the queue to buy a ticket, and then you have to wait for the ticket to get confirmed sometimes, and you never was aware that which is the right way or which is the smartest way to travel from one place to another. But currently, if you see the way things have changed, uh, you know we on the net, when you go on the website, you can find ways which is the smartest mean, which is the shortest route to go from one place to another, how you plan your tickets. I mean, you can buy the cheapest tickets, you can buy the non-stop flight or one-stop flight. So those kind of things which has really been helpful by digital innovation. This slide is showing the relevance of digital innovation on the various aspect of mobility. Like at the planning stage, at the buying stage, validation stage, travel stage, and services stage. And this is also the slide which is also from the service provider side as well as from the user side. So when we say multimodal route planning apps, mobility subscription models, so all these digital innovations at a different stages of our planning or of our traveling helps us to kind of plan our travel efficiently. I would request if anybody in between, if someone feels to ask a question, please feel free to do that. Now, coming to logistics, You know, when I joined this company in Dubai, Aditya Birla Global Trading, which used to be called as Swiss Singapore, this company I started with my career in shipping, logistics, international logistics, and during those days, the communication with the vessel or with the ship used to happen by telex. So I had no idea where my ship is till the time I used to receive a telex from the ship and sending the coordination of the ship where exactly the ship is for the time being. And with those coordinations, I used to go in a manual map and to see that, precisely this is the place where the ship could be or ship can be. But now with the tracking systems, we are able to see the vessel on the computer that where our vessel is exactly, what speed the vessel is going with, what kind of consumption the vessel is doing, what kind of weather the vessel is encountering right now, and what is the ETA, I mean, earliest time of arrival at the discharge port or at the load port. And this has all happened with all this technology of GPS, GPRS, GSM. And earlier, we were never able to even speak to the ship captain when he was on the sea. But today the situation is like this that we can even give them a call and can talk to them and can find out what exactly is happening on the vessel or what is exactly happening en route. Similarly, tracking system in as far as trucks, it is also a very good system for the service providers because they exactly are aware about their trucks and all that how fast they are moving, which route they are taking, and when exactly they can arrive. And with this kind of help, they are able to give information to their customers also about their material, when they likely to reach the material likely to reach them, and what sort of difficulties are being encountered on the way, and whether the driver is driving with the security safety. Now, what is the future of technology? What blockchain, drone delivery, and autonomous trucking? So blockchain, in a layman's language, is a shared ledger. So shared ledger in between the, say, supplier and the buyer. So like when I buy cargo from my supplier in Abu Dhabi and when I sell it to somebody in China. So on the blockchain, what happens is there is a common ledger at which my supplier, my buyer, myself, and the service providers in between, like inspection agencies, like vessel agents, ship owner, all these are sharing the same platform. Nobody has got a right to change any information which is provided on that particular ledger unless the authority is given by supplier or buyer as the requirement may be. And the availability of information is as per the requirement of that particular party. So basically, agent will only be able to see when the vessel is arriving and what kind of cargo they are loading, what kind of planning the ship captain has given to them. And the buyer will get the information when he is supposed to open the letter of credit, when he is going to get the bill of lading, when he can plan to, negotiate his documents and everything. So this is the future for logistics as far as blockchain. Blockchain per se might have not been so popular as of now, but going forward, this technology is definitely going to be used into logistics. Drone delivery, as we all know, I mean, drone delivery is going to become definitely in near future. We are going to see much more drone deliveries happening in case of parcels, in case of food deliveries, and other kind of deliveries of small or big parts, depending on the size and capability of the drones. The truck which you are seeing in this picture is a Tesla truck, and this is like autonomous truck. It can drive on its own, and with this kind of technology available, the road safety is going to be at a different level altogether. there's no over speeding, there's no, this can run for say 24 hours without stopping anywhere. So the efficiency is going to increase, the safety is going to increase. So these are the technologies which are going to change the future of logistics. So as we have been discussing, in previous slides, the advantages of smart logistics is like less labor intensive, better dispatch, easy to replicate, less CO2 footprint, fastest delivery. So, the advantages are huge when we use all these technologies. One thing which comes to my mind is that, we have to see that how these technologies can actually be used in a country like India, where the population is so vast, and, how expensive this technology is going to make its use more effective in the country like ours. Startup ecosystem. So, startup ecosystem is like, as we all know, like people, young crowd, young generation in our country, they have ideas, they come with different ideas, very innovative ideas. We all, I'm sure most of us might have seen Shark Tank India on TV and other place on TV, and in that particular program, we can see that how many good uh, suggestions or good ideas which come for sale to the entrepreneurs and people with funds. So it involves a lot of collaboration among stakeholders to provide funding, mentorship, knowledge, infrastructure. And these kind of support system can only make the startups to thrive. These are the 6 stages of a startup: pre-seed stage, seed stage, early stage, growth stage, expansion stage, and exit stage. So like in the pre-seed and seed stage, the idea is being developed, the prototypes are being formed, and the ideas go for validation purpose. Then, during growth stage, they scale to bigger market, maintain long-term profitability, raise funding. And then it comes to expansion stage where the profitable and the business becomes profitable. Uh, you know, this should be growth of at least 20% for like 3, 4 consecutive years, expand to market other market segments and all these things. And the exit stage is something which can be planned in a different manner. So some people like to exit when the business is running, then they like to sell off their company to some other big entrepreneur, or some people like to keep a major chunk of shareholding with them, and then partly they would like to sell to other entrepreneurs and all that. So there are different ways of deciding of exit from the startups. These are the key component of startups: entrepreneurs, investors, incubators, accelerators, corporations, and government policymakers. I think government policies are the most important for the startups to thrive. And we are seeing that Indian government is doing and taking a lot of steps to help startups to grow faster and to promote startups in our country. What are the key drivers of India's startup ecosystem? We have a large talent pool. 65% of the population is under 35, which is a significant advantage, and very young and educated workforce we have here. Government has taken a lot of initiatives like uh, Startup India, which was launched in 2016. The program has numerous tax benefits and incubation supports, easier regulations, etc. So then affordable talent and infrastructure. The country has, as I said earlier, the country has huge population. There's a there's a vast educated population which is available in the country. And cost-wise, our country is much cheaper than many other foreign countries, and that helps us to really get affordable talent to work, and which helps us to uh, to grow the startups into an industry. The rising internet penetration, I mean, we all are aware now that internet has become such a huge thing in our country. The payment method, the UPI system, uh, has become such a race around the world now, and India has been known for this. So almost even small vendors on the roadside are using the internet system, and they are getting the payments through bank and through the internet system and all. And investment boom, uh, India startups have raised $15 billion funding in 2023, which is a 54% increase from the previous year. And this year it's likely to be much more. So the funding is available in the country, and the not only the entrepreneurs but a lot of public also would like to support and raise funds in startups, because you know investing into startups has become a sort of possibility to multifold your investment in a short period of time. As we can see, India recognized approximately 95 startups daily, and it's the world's second largest startup ecosystem, and we are second only to US as a unicorn hub. So that clearly shows the way startup ecosystem in India is thriving. The fourth industrial revolution, Industry 4.0. So the first industrial revolution was in Great Britain, steam engine to improve the quality of life of people. Power generation was the first innovation around 1782. Then the second one was mobility, conveyor belt, which was innovated in 1913. US industrialization, that was the second big industrialization which happened. The third one is electronics, computers, 1954. And today we all can, see the importance what computers have in our life, daily lives, and in the industry and everywhere. Like, and the fourth industrial revolution started in 2015, which is smart automation. Uh, you know, there are smart devices were created. The devices could interact with each other, and that's how the quality of life, the efficiency of business or efficiency of handling things have changed drastically in the overall setup. This fourth industrial revolution, again, the same thing, the trucks delivering goods autonomously, containers organizing their supply chain and global networks, bins which are display what to pick. So there's no need for anybody to go and find where the particular item is in the store, and you can just see on your computer whether you have the thing available in your stocks or not. People are arranging, controlling, and interlinking the internet and the various aspects of logistics. So this is the summary. So the presentation, I prepared the presentation for the to highlight the evolution of smart cities, and emphasizing the sustainable urban planning and technology driven solutions, mobility innovations which we are seeing currently happening also in logistics, and also startup ecosystem which is kind of thriving in the country, and which is extremely important for the development of our nation as well. So that's that's very much from my side. I may have taken a little lesser time.
Sir, we have one question from Dr. Preeti Mankla.
Okay.
Her question is, how can smart logistic platform improve collaboration between suppliers, managers, and distributors in a supply chain system?
Ma'am, in a supply chain system, the collaboration between suppliers and distributors can drastically be changed by the help of using either one thing is blockchain and the another thing is using this internet linking kind of thing. So when you have a supplier and there's a distributor, the continuous stock tracking can happen at the distributor's end, and he can actually the supplier can actually see that how much stock is remaining with the distributor. He can actually track what is the stock lying with the distributor and whether that stock is sufficient enough to meet the requirement for the coming period, whatever the whatever the duration of that period would be. So for coming month or coming 6 months, or depending on the demand and supply scenario in that particular sector. So in our case, what we see is like we are supplying sulfur to Congo via Dar es Salaam. We are aware of on a daily basis. We can see on the comps that what kind of stock is lying with our distributor in Dar es Salaam, how much is already on the truck, how much trucks are already reaching Congo, and when we are expecting next trucks to come to Dar es Salaam. And that's how the collaboration helps us to managing our stocks in that country properly, and that's how we do business by estimating the stock as well as the supply and demand system, demand over there in that country.
Thank you, sir. Dear participants, if you have any question, please feel free to post your question in the chat box. Sir, we have another question from Dr. Ananda Lakshmi. The investors are not ready to invest in startups. Most of the startups are suffering with financial crisis. Do you like to add any insight on this, sir?
Yeah, so I tell you one thing, the problem with the startups is that mostly the people in startups, they come with ideas and they like to sell the ideas to the entrepreneurs without even taking it to the level where it can actually entice the entrepreneurs to put money in them. I was I was in California in US, and over there we were attending some program where the investors were talking about startups. The failure of startups, the ratio of failure of startups is almost 90 to 92.5% in US. I don't know about India for the timing, but this is the level of failures which is happening with the startups. And the reason of failure is most of the startups come with a great idea, but they do not have a capability to develop that great idea into a great business, and which kind of makes the entrepreneurs feel that when they invest their money into these startups, they're going to lose the money, and these startups are not uh, or the people behind the startups are not capable enough to run the business. I think it is hard to raise funds for anybody, and for startups, it's much more harder because they have to sell the idea which no one has sold before, and to do that, the the level of preparation has to be at a different level.
Thank you for sharing this, sir. Dear participants, do you have any other questions to ask? Pankaj ma'am? Pankaj ma'am, are you there? Karthik sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Huh. So I think we don't have any more questions from participants. Shall we conclude the session or what?
Yes, sir. Sir, on behalf of ACT, St. Francis College, and all the coordinators, thank you so much for accepting our invite and being here, sharing everybody, the participants, your knowledge sharing on smart logistics and supply chain management. Please accept our gratitude on behalf of all the participants and all the coordinators of us. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you so much, sir. Thanks a lot. Thank you, Dr.
So,
Pankaj.
Swapnil, I just wanted to, because I was just listening to your conversation, and um, Just a last bit of for me, when we were talking the logistic in your country and when we compare with India, what sort of difference you see and what could be one or two recommendations you wanted to share with us, because there are many research scholars who are there with us today. So any probable area where they can look around, to do some more research, whatever you prefer to.
So, ma'am, it's a very good question. And if you compare the logistics between the country where I stay in and in our country, there are some basic flaws which we have in our country is that, firstly, if you see today, our truck drivers, way people get license in our country, the driving licenses which we get in our country, that itself is a problem. Then the second issue, what we are seeing is that infrastructure is yet to catch up with the kind of growth we are anticipating in our country and the kind of growth we are having in our country. And that is what is making life difficult for the logistics companies at in our country. What I can see currently that there's a lack of wagons which we have seen in Kandla, in the ports like Kandla, Mundra, the transportation of cargo is so poor, and because of that, the country is losing so much money paying on damages in dollars, which is not adding any value to the system. And those kind of things can be changed by using these kind of smart technologies and making an ecosystem where technology can be integrated into the logistics systems. We are, in fact, most of the things I feel that we are not yet trying to learn from the world in the way which we should have learned. I mean, the speed of learning is much slower in a country than what it should be. And that's what the basic difference is. Not only in the country where I'm staying, ma'am, even in China, for that matter, if you go, the kind of logistics they prepare over there, the way that they control the whole thing overall is is amazing. It's at a different level altogether.
Sure. So thank you, Swapnil. Karthik sir, we have any more, or we can take a reflection as Swapnil is here with us. Can
Yeah,
I call out the
definitely.
names so that at least Swapnil can add on? Dr. Ratana Pakyam, ma'am. Ma'am is with us. Okay. One second. I'll just call out few names so that at least we can
Just a moment, ma'am. Just a
listen to
moment,
them.
please.
Yeah, yeah. Dr. Anand Devedi sir, are you there with us?
I think participants can unmute and speak now. If there is any issue, please drop the issue in the chat box so that we can able to understand what exactly the issue is.
Okay. Let me call out Dr. Amit Prakash Raghuvanshi sir. Are you there with us? Dr. Guru Prasad Pai B. Sir, you're there? Ma'am, I think someone has raised the hand. Can you please? Rajakumar sir is there, I believe.
Hello.
Hello, is it audible? Hello.
Yes, sir, you're audible. Please go ahead, sir.
Good evening, madam.
Good
The
evening.
fifth day FTP is very nice. The speakers they're given that very vast experience and they're given the proper explanation. Thanks for the speaker and then thanks for the organizer that Francis College, madam. Thank you, madam. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Neha, are you there with us?
Ma'am, ma'am, can I give my reflection now?
Yes, yes,
Dr. Guru
ma'am.
Prasad from
Can you?
Alvas here.
Yes, yes, please, sir.
Yeah, yeah. So it was very good session. In fact, Monica ma'am, whatever she spoke about PPP model, how it works in vendor management PPP model as well as the vendor management altogether. So good session. And second session, whatever I had actually one question to ask with sir, but we had certain internet issue here. So anyways, I'll be posting about that, like what exactly, whether India is ready for, whatever sir spoke about, like future of logistics. So whether India is ready for that. So that question I wanted to pose because of rain here, I couldn't approach sir. So
I believe Swapnil is there
sir is
with
there.
us.
Okay, sir is there already. Okay. Sir, I wanted to ask that question, like you spoke about the future of logistics. Uh, in just can you just tell me, sir, like whether we like Indians we are ready for that? Do we have ecosystem for that? Are we ready for this particular thing?
It's a very tough call. So I tell you one thing, whether we are ready for anything, whether we were ready for GST or not, I mean, initial hiccups were there. Whether we are ready for logistics, I mean, you can see the way, the car system, the electronic car system, which is developing in India, and the way we are aspiring to become carbon-free country by 2050. That's the promise which we have made in Paris summit. So, if we have to go in that direction, we will have to scale up our game. Now, the thing is, currently, today, if you ask me, are we ready? I would say no. It would be wrong on my part to say that, no, yes, we are ready. We are not ready because we have yet to develop that kind of infrastructure which can help these kind of technologies to run on the road. Like autonomous trucks, uh, how fast can we bring on the road? Whether it is so far they are not in any other country also, they have not kind of changed or completely replaced the manual logistics system in other countries also, but whether they can change in our country, because here the another problem which our government will face is the unemployment problem. With such a large population in the country, do we really need the driverless cars or the driverless trucks in the country? That is also has to be seen. So there are a lot of aspects to it. uh, as of today, I don't think so we are ready, but yes, we cannot close our eyes to the technologies which are going to come and going to change the future, because then we also have to compete with the other economies, and we also have to kind of to grow in a way that we outperform others. So we have to get prepared in future, but as of today, if you ask me, no, we are not prepared, we are not ready.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Sure. So I would like to call upon Dr. A. Paneer Selva. Are you there with us? Dr. Rima Lobo. Ma'am, you're there? Anirbal Paul. Dr. Priyadashni Pillai. Ma'am?
Hello.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Good evening, ma'am. Uh, this FDP is going fantastically. And really, we are so fortunate that we have got this opportunity to participate in this FDP. And seriously, we cannot say that today is a Friday and tomorrow will be the last day. So now it's become our routine to attend this class, the first session and the second session. After that, we had our dinner. So it is going fantastically, and the credit goes to you, ma'am. A big congratulations on this successful conduction of this FDP faculty development program, ma'am. So thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much for providing this opportunity to everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Neha, ma'am. I think it's all goes, credit goes to our resource person like Swapnil is there with us today. So it depends on how they come and then their commitment, because all the commitment I have received from them last 2 months back. So that is where all credit goes to the resource person, ma'am. So thank you so much.
Yeah, of course, ma'am. And whatever the resource person you have choose, they are seriously very fantastically. They just elaborate the topic, and that is really going superb.
Swapnil, this is for you as well.
This is for everyone, ma'am.
So
No, thank you
I
so
want
much.
to mention it, special mention to all that Swapnil has actually traveled to India, and I think he has been busy throughout the day in some conference in Delhi. And I think he's still in the hotel room just to ensure that he's there with us today. So thank you, Swapnil. I think just a heartfelt
Thank you
thank you
so
to
much.
you.
Thank you so
Yeah,
Thank
much.
so
you,
we'll
sir.
take
Thank you
one
so
or
much
two
for
more.
the big thank you that you have given us your valuable time.
No, thanks a lot. I am not sure that whether my presentation was actually that helpful to you guys, but you know, I try to do whatever in the brief way I could have done for.
So, what we'll do, Swapnil, in case any kind of queries or any sort of information they wanted to learn more in terms of logistics, definitely I'll be passing on to you,
Sure,
and
ma'am.
then we can. So there is no issue at all.
Okay.
I will take one or two more reflection in the meanwhile, and then we'll be closing the session for today, and then we will have to let Swapnil also go. So, Swapnil, just 5 more minutes we'll take.
Yeah.
Um,
Good evening, ma'am. Can I give
yes,
my reflection? This is Dr.
yes,
Preeti Mandu.
Preeti ma'am, please.
Yeah. This is for Swapnil, sir. According to Sir, smart logistics and supply chain management are revolutionary, and how goods are moved, tracked, and delivered globally. It was very interesting. So, your PowerPoint was crisp, but we could understand how nicely you presented everything, and I was fascinated by that slide, that is smart cities, uh, that was showing comprehensive urban plan. That was really helpful for us to understand the things in a better way. With the advent of advanced technologies such as IoT, AI, machine learning, and blockchain, traditionally supply chains are evolving into more dynamic, efficient, and transparent systems. These innovations are driving greater efficiency, reducing costs, and enabling real time data analytics, which is essential for making informed decisions. And as you mentioned that India has to learn more, and we should move towards it more in a better way. We should not be slow. So really, it's because we are teaching in institutions, so we have to prepare the younger generation for it, and definitely it will help us to guide them. Thank you so much, sir.
Ma'am, you thank you so much for your kind words. Just one observation or one point which I would like to make here. Surprisingly, logistics is one of the subject on which there's no special subject or a special course which is being designed in the country. And I think,
Sir,
going.
sorry to interrupt you. We have in Jyoti Nivas College,
Ah,
this is
okay.
bachelor degree for logistic chains and supply
Oh,
management.
fantastic.
So we have
Fantastic.
started this program, and that's why we will look forward, and definitely we will also have your insights with Pankaj ma'am's permission. I will take your details so that we can continue in future to have interactions.
Ma'am, actually, this is the future. I mean, the logistics is going to be the future because, there are many businesses which are going to die, but logistics is one business which is going to thrive going forward in the country.
Yes, sir. Yes. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Preeti ma'am. We can see Hemlata and ma'am. Can you please help them out, Sonia ma'am? Hemlata
Ma'am,
and ma'am.
she can
Good evening.
unmute, ma'am.
Good evening to Swapnil Taparia, sir. It was a fantastic, talk on logistics, and thank you for giving the realistic picture regarding the supply chain and the logistics with respect to India. And you were telling that we lack any kind of degree in our country. We don't have courses. There is a institute called as Indian Institute of Material Management, which is in MG Road. I was previously working for them as a faculty, visiting faculty, and they give a lot of, they provide courses for supply chain and all that. Diploma, PG, all these courses are available for them, sir.
Ma'am, when I'm saying that, there's no proper course available, there's a bachelor course available in commerce in most of the colleges. There's a
Okay, okay.
bachelor course available for arts, for science in most of the colleges. But my purpose was saying is that, how are we going to make professionals?
Ah,
So when I'm saying
yes.
when I'm saying course means it has to go to the level of doctorate kind of thing.
Okay,
Where
okay.
people become really so much into it, because one thing is, ma'am, supply chain is not something which you can only learn by reading it.
Yes,
There has to be a lot of practical experience which is required to be
yes.
done. It's not a very difficult thing to learn, because I'm a chartered accountant by academics, and I started my career in shipping, logistics in Dubai, and but there I learned for 4 5 years kind of thing. A lot of
Mhm.
mistakes I made. I would have not made those mistakes had I would have if I would have had some experience previously. So this is what my purpose is of saying, is that we need to create professionals who can really come out and use their knowledge into developing the country's infrastructure or in logistics in a better manner.
Yes, yes. I agree with you. Yes, I totally agree with you in this regard, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, so we'll take the last one for today. Dr. I. Vijay Arasu, are you there with us, sir? Dr. Anita? Dr. VHS Pallavi?
Hello, good evening, ma'am.
Good evening, ma'am.
Ma'am, am I audible?
Yes, yes, very much, ma'am.
Yes. Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am, for the wonderful session. Swapnil, sir, I totally agree with you that LSCM is not a popular course nowadays. But as ma'am, one of the candidates said that they are having BBA in LSCM. Same, ma'am, in Chandigarh University, we are also having BBA bachelor degree specialized in LSCM, Logistics Supply Chain Management, and we are having some students also in the BBA course. Nowadays, as per the government schemes, or the Indian government are focusing on the logistics supply chain management, that students are also taking interested in the degree also. And definitely that the session is definitely beneficial for the students as well as faculties to know the key area or the most important area where we can work more in the research as well as in the teaching aspect also. So once again, I would like to say thanks for the organizer teams and sir also, and Monica ma'am, who has explained the triple P model in smart cities, because only government sector and not only private sector can't do the work on a infrastructure sector, but both, like in the legal system or like the land acquisition system, government can play a important role, and for the technology and fast construction, for private sector can play a very good role in the infrastructure development. So yes, and I once again I would like to thanks. Nowadays this would be our routine to attend all these sessions on a continue mode like a student, so that we are attending online classes, and definitely I would like to attend more FDPs in the future also. And thank you so much, ma'am, once again for the organizer. And it's a really very hardworking I'm seeing all from all the organizer team, you, Karthik sir, and Abha ma'am, all these. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Dr. Anita, ma'am. I think Swapnil, more work for you now in future. So,
And
Swapnil,
Pankaj ma'am, one more thing I would like to say, if Swapnil sir will agree, then we also would like to invite Swapnil sir for our institute to having a guest lecture.
sure,
I
ma'am. I
would,
will pass on the details. You can get in touch with
yeah,
Swapnil directly.
sure.
Excuse me, madam. Hello.
Manjula, ma'am, would you like to speak today? Azmira Manjula?
I think Vijay sir, Dr. Vijay Arasu is willing to contribute something. I think he can go ahead, ma'am.
Yes,
Shall I
ma'am.
proceed? Hello, am I audible?
We can hear
Yes,
you,
yes.
sir, Vijay sir.
Yeah. Thank you so much, ma'am, for calling me. And I'm very much delighted to give the reflection of out of 184. Thank you so much due to the delays because of that open up. And really very good session in past 5 days. And madam as well as sir is also even a very effective and very useful, ma'am. Even though we are belongs to mechanical, logistics and smart cities are different for us. Anyhow, it is very useful. I belongs to Tamil Nadu, Madurai. Here also the smart city is going on. So in this way, we learned a lot of things, ma'am. Similarly, the first session that IAS sir spoken the finals word before I born only a child, and after I retired only a human being. That I impressed very much, ma'am. And also the hard work put by you and your team and that college, everything is very awesome. I belongs to Ladamadan Engineering College. From our college, 3 of the faculties are attending past 5 days, ma'am. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Vijay sir. I can see one more participant,
I
Amura.
think Pushpalata ma'am also like to contribute something.
Sure,
She
sure.
also
Please,
raised
please
her
invite
hand, ma'am.
Pushpalata ma'am. Yeah, Pushpalata ma'am.
Pushpalata ma'am, are you there?
Yes, ma'am.
Please go ahead, ma'am.
Good evening to all of you. And
Good evening,
Swapnil,
ma'am.
sir, the session what you delivered, it was a wonderful session, sir.
Yes.
I have a question which is general in nature. For the past 5 days, we have been listening to various concepts relating to smart city mobility or smart urban city and all. In this respect, I have a question. What role do IoT and AI will play in contributing waste tracking and management, sir? Because when we take Bangalore as a city, though it is considered as a smart city or developing city, but most of the places we see this waste is not segregated properly. So how this AI or IoT can contribute to the better waste management?
Ma'am, I think, AI and IoT can help you in developing the logistics or the way you are going to segregate or where you are going to kind of uh, deal with waste segregation or waste utilization in the country. But what I've seen is that waste is something, at least in our country, what I can see is that, it is largely public's responsibility first, and also the awareness that how to segregate waste and how to keep it at a place. Like in any country you go, like in US you go, in Singapore and in UK, they have like three kind of boxes that, this is the waste for papers, this is the waste for food items, this is the waste for plastics, and people go and dump the waste in that, which is not happening in our country, at least. As far as I can, the number of cities I go and I see in Rajasthan, I belong to Rajasthan, I don't see anything of this kind happening over there. So what IoT and AI system can actually do is that they can say that, okay, this is the waste lying over here, or when we create a space like that, which can be controlled by AI or IoT, that this is the waste lying, this is how it has to be kind of deal with, or it has to be segregated. Just by itself, AI and IoT cannot actually help in doing that. So it has to, there has to be proper process, there has to be proper infrastructure has to be developed for that, and then only we can expect the AI and IoT to help us with these kind of problems.
Thank you, sir.
We have some more. I think Swapnil, towards the end, see, so many
Hello.
questions are coming to
Sir.
you.
Hello.
Yes.
This is Dr. A. Mutturaja.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Actually, most of the time during rainy season, logistics companies are facing a huge risk, particularly from airport or cargo place to that particular where we are going to shipping or delivering. So that particular issues during rainy seasons, flooding season, the people are facing, particularly in Chennai and Mumbai. How our Indian scenario is going to introduce the smart city along with this type of issue? So is there any solution, sir? Because everywhere we are talking about smart cities, but still that small logistic issue is not yet rectified for many years. So may I know the reason, sir?
Sir, I tell you, the reason is simple, sir, that, firstly, we are so many in numbers. The country's population is huge. To manage that kind of population is extremely, extremely difficult. And the another problem which I personally feel we have here is lack of discipline and awareness. I think, important thing is that people who are dealing with these kind of things, or people who are actually trying to make smart cities. So whichever the organization, whatever the municipality or the government, the government public departments which are planning to do or make smart cities, are they really experienced, or are they really being taught enough, or are they really being made to go somewhere to see the smart cities actually, and to then change their perception about the things, how the things can happen? Because I remember, long time back, one chief minister went to China and he came back to India and he says that, we will make Mumbai as Shanghai. When you go to Shanghai and when you come back to Mumbai, today also Mumbai is not even one, it has not even reached, say 5% of what Shanghai is, or 10% of what Shanghai is, I would say. When you go to Shanghai, you feel, oh my God, like, you come into a place which is completely different in it looks, in the way infrastructure is and everything over there. So the important thing is whether the person, the engineer who is planning to make a smart city, whether that IT department which is planning to develop the system for the smart city, whether the logistics guy who are planning to put proper logistics or mobility system in the city, whether they have been really sent to some place for the training, for changing their perception, or for getting them new perspective about what a smart city is all about. Till the time those kind of things will not happen, I don't expect things to change. And that's why when I said that we do not have a proper course of logistics in the country, taking a degree is one thing, sir. But then, whether those guys have been really sent to some place where there's a good smart logistics system is available, or where they can learn something new or something different for what is happening. When you are studying and learning in the same environment where you are, your knowledge goes higher only by 5% or 10%. But when you go actually to the place which you are trying to achieve, so what is the role model with us? I mean, I tell you one thing, most of the people are not even aware. Today, Ajmer in my state is called a smart city. When I go there, I really fail to understand what actually has changed to the smart one. So, it is like this, that as of today, this term in our country is largely being used for political purposes, not in a reality. If we really want to change it in reality, we need to learn a lot. Again, as I said, we need to send people out to get a different experience, and to send to the places where places which we are trying to achieve, or the goals which we are trying to achieve. We need to go there to see that, okay, this is what we want to achieve. Then only we can actually make them a smart city. As far as you are saying, sir, about flooding and all, I tell you one thing, in UK it rains heavily. In India, when we say that after rains there will be potholes on the roads, in UK, the rains, it equally rains, like it rains much more than many of the cities in India as well. But then there's no potholes over there. So why it happens? So things, there are a lot of other issues. It's just not the intention itself is sufficient. There has to be a lot of efforts in that direction which is required to be done.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Sure. So we'll take the last reflection for today. Dr. VHS Pallavi, we can see your raised hand. You want to unmute yourself.
Pallavi ma'am, can you unmute and speak?
Or maybe she's there. Okay. I think we can good to go now. We can wrap up. Sonia ma'am, we are
Yes,
good.
ma'am.
Karthik sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Let
Swapnil
me
sir. Yeah,
yes,
yeah,
ma'am.
please, ma'am. Go ahead, go ahead.
Karthik sir, please go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah. Swapnil sir, thank you so much once again. I already thanked you, but question and A went on for 30 minutes. I think that's good actually. It's always good to have discussion. People also are thinking and asking you, and in the equivalent way, you are also answering. That's appreciated, sir. A sincere gratitude once again from all of us to you.
Thank you
Please
so much.
accept our gratitude in spite, I think Pankaj told, in spite of your busy schedule, you're in the hotel and you are hosting a session for all of us for our knowledge. I think that's well appreciated from our side. On behalf of the ACT, on behalf of St. Francis College, thank you so much. I just want to add one more thing. Even our college, St. Francis College, also we do offer Bachelor of Commerce with Logistics and Supply Chain Management. Because since there was a demand from the students, I think we do offer, like which is affiliated to Bengaluru City University. Thank you so much, sir, for your session. All your suggestions. Let's see. A developing country like India will definitely work on all this and will become certainly a good smart city in the coming future. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you so much, sir. Thanks a lot. Thank you, Dr.
Thanks
Swapnil,
Pankaj.
for your time.
thank you so much.
Thank you.
Pleasure to have you around,
Thank you,
and
ma'am.
I will
Thank you
connect
so
with
much.
you soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye.
Thank you, sir.
Few announcements for the participants. Please be there online. Swapnil,
Ma'am,
you
can I
are
leave?
comfortable.
Okay.
Yeah, thank
Thank you,
you.
ma'am.
So one thing I just wanted to reiterate to all the participants, some of you and many of you are approaching me that your attendance is not reflecting. So please understand, uh, it is in progress. Kindly keep a check every day, because tomorrow we will not be, checking on the attendance, because it has to be generated for your certificate. So kindly ensure that it is not to be meant for the exam. Attendance will be considered for your final certificate. So tomorrow we will have the online session. Timing I will be confirming, because I've been hearing from many of the participants they have some swam exam tomorrow. So let me double check with ATAL management and how they want to do that. I'll be ensuring that you will be receiving information from me much in advance. Okay, so kindly be flexible tomorrow, because as tomorrow there are 5 different sessions planned, and including the valedictory as well. So we will have all different personas of resource person with us, especially from the international as well. So I would request kindly plan your day accordingly. Don't please send out any request to me, because tomorrow is the last day of the ATAL FDP, and we are also trying our best to accommodate all the requests possibly. So kindly hold on for my agenda, because I've been hearing about the timing change, but it will not change so drastically, slight here there. So I'll be informing you by tonight first thing in the morning. So kindly cooperate with us, and we will also be trying to provide all of our support. So with that, Sonia ma'am, I think we are good
Yeah.
to
Ma'am, just to
say
Yes,
add
ma'am.
on, all
now.
your timings changes, whatever Dr. Pankaj said, that is from the approval of ACT, because all of you know in ATAL FTP you are not supposed to change the agenda. So with the permission of them only, we do change in the benefit of all of
Yeah.
you, if they agree.
Yes, that is what, because I know exams are there, but guidelines are guidelines, and without any single changes, any small changes also, we will have to inform the ATAL FDP management, and without their permission, we have no, authority to change anything. So including the timing, including the agenda, and including your exam. So one last thing from my end, exam will be MCQ based, so kindly be cautious of what you'll be choosing. So mostly we'll be putting up whatever we have heard in the last 5 days, most likely till tomorrow afternoon what we'll be covering. So kindly be flexible with that. Thank you.
Thank you, Pankaj ma'am. As we conclude another enriching day of the ATAL FDP, we sincerely thank all the participants for their active engagement and dedication to learning, especially in a virtual setting. And your enthusiasm has greatly enriched today's discussion. As we wrap up day 5, I would like to wish you all a restful and peaceful night. Let's recharge and come back tomorrow for yet another day filled with knowledge, collaboration, and growth. On behalf of the organizing team, I wish you a good night, and we look forward to seeing you tomorrow for the final session of the ATAL FTB. Thank you once again. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Karthik sir. Thank you, Pankaj ma'am, and thank you all the participants.
Ma'am, on
We
behalf
should
of
be thanking to
everybody,
you.
thanks to you as well.
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, on all the audiences, we would like to special mention to the three of our members who helped us in organizing today's session. Dr. Sonia, Associate Professor, Department of Postgraduate Studies, St. Francis College. Dr. Krishna, Chief Librarian, St. Francis College. And Mr. Albert Fidelis, Assistant Professor from the Departments of Journalism. All three of you, thank you so much. Kindly accept our gratitude on behalf of the coordinators and participants in ensuring today's session goes smoothly without any hurdles. Thank you so
Thank you.
much, all
Thank
three
you,
of
sir.
you.
It's
Thank you, Dr.
pleasure.
Pankaj ma'am.
Yeah, it's pleasure hosting the today's session, sir. Thanks for the opportunity, Pankaj ma'am and Karthik sir. I think we can conclude our today's session. Shall I end the
Yes.
session, ma'am, or?
Yes, yes, we can. Participants, sleep well. Come again fresh tomorrow because tomorrow we'll be attending almost for more than half a day and it is going to be a longer session. So thank you so much and have a good night to all of you. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.